My name is Kevin Davis. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. When I was 5, I would go to church and learn the song called Jesus Loves the Little Children. The song talked about how Jesus loved all kids of all races. Then I would go into a mall and see a separate water fountain for blacks only. I was pretty confused. When I was 6, I was sent away to live with my grandparents in a small farming community in Nebraska. There were no minorities there. When I was 9, my mom remarried and I moved back with my family to Southgate, California. Our new stepfather was a racist and a bigot. We lived in Alameda Street. On the other side of the tracks was Watts. When I was 12, we moved a few blocks away to a neighborhood that was infested with drugs. And of course, this influenced me. I was the only Boy Scout in my neighborhood and almost an Eagle Scout. There were no blacks in grammar school. I was the president of the school when I was in 6th grade. When I got to junior high and high school, there was a third black, a third Hispanic, and a third white. For the most part, these groups remained separated. I went to college to study theater. I found this was a group of misfits and people that didn't belong. I studied lighting and scenery design. In 1983, I lived downtown LA for several months. The homeless population wasn't that bad, and we had a lot of homeless friends. In 1984, I started my first scenery and special effects shop. In 4 years, it grew to be one of the largest on the West Coast. Right before the union took me out, I was worth $2.5 million. It was a godsend because I had so much business, I was working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. To make this happen, I used cocaine. Had I continued at this pace, I would have died of a heart attack. I stopped cocaine and then started a smaller shop downtown LA. One of my clients was working for the Super Bowl in Pasadena, and the NFL said we had to have a minority crew to be able to work on the job. I then put together a group of homeless workers and trained them. Most of these were black. To this day, this was the best crew I ever had. There were homeless people living behind my shop that would guard my shop at night. For a brief period of my career, I was the only white person that was working for BET, Black Entertainment Television. I was an art director and donated my time for such causes as Coalition for Free Africa, produced by Dick Griffey. In 1992, after the Rodney King riots, there was a movement to come up with an idea how to rebuild LA. My friend John Marshall and a few other black leaders came up with an idea to build a film school near USC for minorities. This became such a great idea that Vice President Gore was going to take a bus tour through South LA with John as well as a few prominent black figures. And then Maxine Waters claimed it was her idea. She parked a lady answering a phone in office. The White House, seen this as a turmoil, abandoned the idea and gave the money to the Missouri flood victims. In 1996, the director of the CIA came to a high school in LA for a town meeting. At that meeting, Michael Rupert, an ex-LAPD narcotics officer, confronted Don Juche and told him that he had seen the CIA's involvement in drug dealing in South LA. They were bringing crack cocaine into South LA and selling it at dirt cheap prices. Gary Webb picked up on this story and wrote about it in the Mercury News. Then Maxine Waters took her story to Congress. For Gary's involvement, he was whacked in the late 2004. In 2006, Michael moved to Venezuela fearing for his life. He then came back several years before he took his own life. He told everybody he was with a friend in Colorado, but he secretly was living with a friend in Calistoga, California. I was friends with Michael about a year before he took his life. He was pissed that Maxine Waters had taken his story to Congress and left him and Gary out to dry. He had been stripped of all of his benefits from the LAPD and was living on the charity of friends. He was afraid for his friend's life. 3 days before he shot himself in the head, he told us all what he was going to do. Not one of us tried to stop him. On April 13, 2014, Michael did the decent thing. I will never forget this hero. In early 2001, my girlfriend produced a radio show for Ted Hayes, the downtown LA homeless activist who built the Dome Village. The Dome Village consisted of 20 fiberglass domes where families could live. The money was donated by ARCO. The radio show we did was in Pasadena and very late at night. Only a few people from Dome Village would call in. I sat in a booth next to Ted and called in, disguising my voice in different accents. I asked vague questions so Ted could explain what was going on. At the time, Ted lived in Hollywood and had several girlfriends. His problem was that he was a Republican and thought George Bush Jr. would help him out. Ted said there were 12 NGOs that were downtown LA to help, and none of them were doing anything. In 2006, the property they were renting increased by 700%. LA had a chance at homelessness, but sold out to developers who made million-dollar loss. In 2002, I met a teacher of spiritual teachers like Deepak Chopra and Michael Beckworth. Her name was Pamelia Evans. She used the term divine nomad to describe the homeless, and it stuck. In 2009, I went to the Amazon to help restore and save lives. I cleaned a major stream in the city of Pucallpa, Peru, and pulled out over 3,700 bags of trash. I fed nearly 1,200 kids and took about 100 to hospitals. I had a massive plan that I put together, and then in 2015, I had a brain aneurysm. While I was doing this, people kept asking me why I wasn't helping my own. When I first started going there, the homeless wasn't that big of an issue. Now it is.